was like rapping with the steering wheel like this.
Yes.
We need to see that. Normally, always in the morning. That's it.
Yeah.
That's when
Okay.
when I do my shampoo. Never conditioner. There's a very funny meme of Checo. Of Checo, right? Yeah. There's a few drivers that have asked for it. If you really want the sprint weekend to make it interesting, why don't we try this?
Right, so I'm going down that one, aren't I? Yeah, nice. All right, sweet. All good?
Ready to go.
Questions? Ready to go. Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the P1 YouTube channel. Today, myself, Tommy, and a very special guest, Carlos Sainz.
Thank you very much.
We've got loads of questions in from fans and a few from ourselves as well. Don't worry, I'm not going to be asking you about upgrades on the car and things like that. It's more.
Thank God. Also because there's no upgrades. So,
yeah, fair. Right, let's start with @FNEXE. How does your hair stay so damn perfect even under a helmet?
I don't think my hair stays perfect under a helmet. But I don't know why people think it looks good, because when I look at it, when I jump out of the car, I'm like, what a disaster. I should have wear a cap, or I should have done something to it. But in the moment, I don't think obviously about my hair. Is the last thing I think about. But people still think it looks good, so I guess I'm lucky on that. I don't know why, because I don't do anything.
Do you not?
No.
I guess that would be.
I genuinely think about 50% of the questions were, what's your hair care routine? Okay, my hair care routine. I shampoo it once a day. That's it.
Yeah.
And then if I shower 2 or 3 times per day, because I normally shower a lot, I'm very hygienic in that sense. I only shampoo it once though.
Yeah.
Even if it gets wet, I only do once. If I do it too much, it gets too fluffy.
So once a day, shower 2 to 3 times a day.
Normally always in the morning, that's it.
Yeah.
That's when I do my shampoo. Never conditioner.
Not conditioning.
Never,
okay.
never.
Just shampoo.
Just shampoo once. People say he might do it twice, 3 times, once.
Between practice
I
sessions.
don't have time to do it twice. Everyone's writing it down now. Good. This question is from us actually, and it's: do you see the F1 memes about yourself and edits on TikTok a lot? Because I always find it quite funny that you see all these memes and edits people are making, and I think a lot of people don't realize that drivers might actually see them. Yes, I do. And everyone who says they don't, they're lying. Everyone likes seeing, doesn't matter if it's a funny meme or a stupid meme, or maybe a meme that is going against you, whatever. We all, somewhere or another it gets to us. You know, doesn't matter if it's social media or maybe a friend of us that has seen it and sends it to you, taking the pics about you. You know, it's like if it's a good meme, or let's say more of the famous memes, they end up getting to you. My favorite ones, I'm not gonna lie, are the ones where people laugh at me for being spaced out. People, I don't know why, there's a lot of memes about me, like in press conferences and places of me being spaced out that I never realize, and I find them funny.
So are you actually spaced out in the moment, or would you say you're just looking off into the distance? And
for me, in that moment, I just think, okay, I'm being serious and thinking about my stuff, which is pretty normal. But it's true that maybe the face I put when I think about my stuff is very, like if I'm not there, like very spaced out. When I look at it, it makes me laugh, and I don't realize how sometimes dumb I look.
Next question comes from Sailor May. Do you feel a lot of pressure from fans?
No, I don't think the fans add pressure. I mean, the amount of pressure that we have from ourselves, because we are so competitive, the teams, because obviously we want to perform for our team and for the 1,300 people that work in Ferrari, that's so much pressure that I only see the fan base and supporters as an added support. No, it is true that sometimes obviously fans suffer with you, a bad result, and you want to give them a good result. But I always see, or most of the times, I only see good comments after a bad race or great comments after a good race. I use them more as an encouragement, as a tool to motivate me, to encourage me. And I sometimes, even when you're a bit down, you've had a bad race, which I never really look at my comments, I go and see. Let's see what these fans are saying, and I see the positive comments of encouragement, and it lifts you up a bit, and that's why I use it more as a motivator, as a positive tool, more than actually pressure or feeling any kind of that.
What kind of emotions did it feel to see them again after perhaps a break away? And because of course you go to a life where you're on a boat or whatever and you're chilling and you're away from that to now back into it again.
You also see them in when you're in the boat, and when I'm in Mallorca, they're still fans. So
Fair enough.
we don't really get to miss the fans because they're always there. They're wherever we go. They're there. It is true that probably the fan that comes to a race, it's a proper fan. It means they've spent quite a bit of money of their earnings or family money, whatever, in coming to a race and wanting to see you live. While probably the people that we bump into restaurants, they want that cheeky selfie, to maybe share with their friends, share with their family, like how cool I am that I've been in a restaurant with Carlos, instead of a proper fan that it's the fan that spends their monthly year earnings to come to a race, and with them you need to be more careful. You need to be more. I always try and be more. Give them more of my time, more of my smile, more of my thanks.
More of your hair flicks.
Yeah, a couple of hair flicks to make sure they. I show them appreciation for coming to support us. The other day I met a young fan, and when he left, he said, "Carlos, when you win again, can you celebrate for me? Can you do a celebration that I can spot that it was, and you can remember me?" Say, "Yeah, go on, tell me, what do you want me to celebrate?" He was like rapping with the steering wheel like this. So, okay, whenever I win, I'll do like this.
Yes.
We need to see that.
Next question comes from Kieran Daly. Why Formula One and not rallying like your father?
Why? Because when I was 10 years old, I was switching on the TV to watch Formula One races with my dad. My dad had just stopped racing at the time in 2004 in rallying. He retired from World Rally Championship. And I remember I was waking him up at 3 a.m. to watch Australian Grand Prix here in Europe. And we both started following Formula One together. And then he said, okay, 2005, we went to Spanish Grand Prix, Barcelona. I met Fernando Alonso, Michael Schumacher. I was lucky enough that my dad obviously had access to the paddock, and I remember meeting all my heroes at the time and going to Ferrari, going to Renault. And when I came back from that trip in 2005, I was 10 years and a half. I told my dad, I want to be like Fernando Alonso. I want to be a Formula One driver. How do we do this? And we started the planning, we started go-karting, which categories to do. Obviously, people helped us also at the time, and my path just went F1. I love rallying, but I just never really got to see my dad winning in rallying or got to follow my dad in rallying, so I fell for Formula One.
When I was growing up, Michael Schumacher was my absolute idol. Like, if he was at the race, I'd turn off the TV, kind of like. What was your experience of meeting Michael? Because you said that he was a hero of yours at the time as well. Because I'm an absolute fanboy, I'd love to know what your experience was of meeting him.
I met him at a very young age, like anything between 10 and 13 years old, because I also raced for his karting team in Germany. I raced the German championship of KF3, and I met him once in Germany. And I think I was just too naive to realize I was meeting Michael Schumacher. At the time, I was just a fanboy, but I was not like getting too nervous if I would have met him at 16, when I truly knew who Michael Schumacher was, like when I knew the history, what he had done. When you're 12, 13, you're a bit like the boy of the rap. You're just there having a laugh, fun. Oh yeah, great, Michael Schumacher. But it was later when I realized how lucky I was to have met him. It was later when I realized how important, how huge he was, And at the time, I remember just my dad telling me, "You're gonna meet Michael Schumacher. Shake his hand, look at his face, be nice." yeah, okay. I was like so relaxed, like enjoying it more than anything else. Some Tucci08 asks, what did you think when Ferrari offered you that first contract? Well, when they offered me that contract, we were in the middle of COVID, so we're all stuck at home. So I had a lot of time to think about it. Imagine being stuck at home for 2 months, and that was when we did all the negotiation with Ferrari. And I had a lot of time to think about it, and this time I really have had time, to think. It's not like we were racing, going race to race, and leaving my management team to hold the negotiations. This time I could get involved, and I could. And I was actually in my parents' home, and we were like all the family, and knowing how everything was developing, and is it gonna happen? It's happening. One day at 9 a.m. I woke up in my pajamas and I signed the contract in my pajamas. So everything happened so quickly that it was great. The feeling, I don't think I need to describe it. It's the proudest moment of my career until then, to put a pen on paper, and sign it.
I bet it didn't feel real at that point, doing that and being stuck, and everyone's stuck at home, and you're like, I've just signed for Ferrari and off it goes, sort of thing.
I couldn't celebrate it also. It was like I couldn't tell anyone. It was good news in a bad moment, like it was COVID, and obviously with the bad news on the TV, we had like our very nice moment or nice week, when that happened. New Romantics asks, what's your favorite race of your career? Ooh, my favorite race of my career, I would say Brazil 2019, my first podium. I really did my best ever race. I started last, and I came back through the field, but I came back like unmarried. And I remember in practice we were actually not that quick, but for some reason that day I woke up and I was really, really quick. And I made like really bold moves. I remember the move on Perez, Kvyat. I did a few midfield moves that maybe, like always at the time, went a bit undercover, because I remember we were not on TV much at the time.
Oh yeah, I remember that. We were always like, where's Carlos?
Exactly, yeah. Oh, that was such a thing, wasn't it?
That was like a meme,
2019,
wasn't it?
It was a meme that they never showed you.
Exactly,
I was like, they were calling me the ghost or something, because they would never show. And I was doing especially that year in McLaren, I felt really confident on the brakes with that car. And I did my best overtakings have been done in those 2 years in McLaren for sure, because of how I felt with the car with the brakes. And I remember I was going uncovered, and I was like, no one's seen these.
Yeah.
I've just done a great
race highlights. So did I even take part? It was so weird, because I remember all of us as fans were like, Carlos is making 10 positions up, and we've not seen one of the overtakes.
Exactly. I'd say that race. I'll take that race.
Question from Pit with Me. How did the nickname Chili come to be?
I don't have an exact explanation or idea of how it came, but my conclusion is that since I'm 16, 17, we were 18 years old, going out with my friends and just hanging around them. I think whenever they were having a couple of extra beers, my nickname or my name were deviated from Carlos to Charlie to Charlie to Chili. Because my friends, I remember them calling me Charles or Charlie.
Yeah.
And I think it went from Carlos to Charles to Charlie to Chili.
So just a bit of a chili.
So it has nothing to do with how spicy I might be or me liking spicy food.
Yeah.
There's nothing about that.
It's just some of your friends slurring potentially.
Lowering, exactly. So we've asked this question to every F1 driver, and you can take it as serious or funny as you like. What's one rule that you'd change in F1 and why? Wow, this is a difficult one. I'm sure there's one, but I think once a year we should all go to Macau and race in F3 or
Macau. Wow,
that would be crazy. 20 F1 drivers go there.
How close do you genuinely think the whole grid would be if it was a Macau spec cars?
I think Macau is different. Macau could be more different. It's not
or a normal track.
Normal track. If we all go tomorrow to Barcelona, let's say, and we do a qualifying lap in normal dry conditions, 6 sets of new soft, like we always have, I don't think there's more than half a second between us. Exactly what our concept.
Yeah.
Half second delay, something like that. And that's one given day. We go next weekend to Silverstone, and the guy that is half a second off in unqualified P20 in Barcelona might be P3, P4, because he's had a much better day and might be towards the top of the field, and another one might have a bad day and be half a second off, but not more than half a second, 6/10 maximum.
So I guess with that, and obviously sometimes the setup's not right and a mistake might happen. How do you kind of process, say you go into a gravel trap or whatever, you have a crash, and then you come back after a practice session. How do you bounce back from that personally? Because I know I'm sure there are many different ways of doing that.
Normally I try to think about the number of laps that I've done that I haven't put it on a gravel trap. So it's 1 out of how many laps have I done in Formula 1?
Yeah.
And you say the chances of me doing that again or doing a mistake like that are 1 in a million from now. Because I've done it now and then you realize that it's a mistake that can happen. You're an F1, you're pushing the limits. It is a mistake, analyze, understand, move on, because the chances of you doing it again are so small that it's not worth dwelling on it and killing yourself for it. It's very easy to massacre yourself, telling yourself that you are stupid, like your friend Charles. It's very easy, to tell you that I'm so stupid. But in the reality is that mistakes are going to happen, and we all do them. And you just need to analyze and recover from them.
That's fascinating to hear. We now move away from the racetrack. One thing F1 fans love is the cool down room. But how long does it take to cool down after a race?
I think the cool down room only exists because they need to put the podium ceremony together. For us, we could go straight to the podium, like no problem, but I think it only exists for that. And I think recently they've done more of a thing about the cool down room, no? Before, no one used to talk about the cool down room, and now everyone is.
Now the commentators are deliberately be quiet so you can hear what you're all saying instead.
Which now makes us be more careful on the cool down room to what we say, no? Because it's like, now we know everyone's.
It's not a cool down room, is it?
It's not a cool down room anymore. So it's interesting. But normally you drink as much as possible and you ask a couple of doubts that you had about someone else's strategy. What did they do at the start? Or you always have like a couple of doubts that you clear with whoever you're sharing the podium at the time.
There's an interesting thing where I think they've only ever done it once, where they filmed the driver briefing, and I think there was a little bit of backlash from the drivers saying, there's a very funny meme of Checo.
Of Checo, right? Yeah.
That's exactly
I really
right.
like that meme.
That is a classic. That whole driver briefing, do you think they were right to kind of not broadcast? Because does it get to the point sometimes, like you mentioned in the cool down room, where you want to say something but you can't because it's being filmed, it's going to go here, it's going to go there, it's going to go around TikTok or whatever?
I think once you put a camera in front of us, nothing's going to be as natural as it would be. So it's a fine line, between how much you want to say, but also how natural you want things to be. And even the same happens sometimes with Netflix. Once you have a camera on Netflix following you, how natural are you, or how explicit are you going to be explaining things? Because that camera is there, no?
Are they everywhere? Like, do you just turn around and you're like, oh God, there's a mic arm, over your shoulder?
Netflix follows us 2 or 3 weekends per year, full time, and then they're everywhere. They put the mic on, and you have a mic, and you don't even remember you have a mic like this one everywhere. But it's a fine line of how much you want to show, but also the thing that you show to be true and to be real. I don't know where's that limit. I think I'm pretty sure everyone would be playing a role also, like in this briefing I'm going to talk more, or I'm going to do that. Everyone would become a bit of an actor, you know, and it wouldn't be natural anymore. Although that Checo face, I can tell is natural.
Do you ever get nervous during a Grand Prix weekend? And if so, when is it at its highest?
I always get nervous. Who doesn't, is the question. I think nerves are good. There's a perfect point of nerves, that you always try to find when you're an athlete. When you are too nervous, too excited, or when you are too relaxed and you're not nervous enough. And I always try to bring myself to that perfect point of nerves that I know is getting me a bit excited, it's getting me fired up, it's getting me ready to race, but it's not getting me too nervous or too excited. And you're always, as an athlete, in your head, balancing that, trying to find that sweet spot, the sweet spot where you perform at your best. And that's why we also sometimes do focusing exercises, concentration, just to shift yourself from one to another, depending on where you are that weekend, because we are all not perfect. There's 23 weekends, especially when you do a lot of races in a row, maybe you get used to the pressure and you're not as nervous. While if it's the first race of the season, you're firing so much, or when it's Monaco, for example, Monaco qualifying, you're firing. City tracks where that you're taking more risk,
the excitement is higher, no? And it's just, I don't know, it's just trying to shift yourself from that.
So you say like you try and get yourself in this good mindset where sometimes you're a bit too calm, sometimes you're a bit too excited. What is that process for you? Are you just talking to yourself going, Carlos, chill out, you're a bit too excited right now? Or like, what's
a bit more specific, a bit more. Yes, for sure there's those thoughts in your head, but then there's techniques. You know, when you're too excited, the breathing techniques really help to calm you down. And when you are a bit too calm, a good warm up, getting your heart rate up, cold bath, something to really like put you up, it also helps. So I would say if you're too excited, breathing techniques. If you're a bit too calm, make sure you warm up a bit harder. You maybe, if you have to raise your heart rate in your warm up a bit, make sure that you properly spike it more. You get to 180, 190 where I feel like I'm like, how do you say, like out of breath, and that's suddenly switches me on.
Okay, so it's like a physical sort of exercise manager to get you. Okay, cool.
Gavin Curly90 has asked, what do you think of Conor Moore's impression of you? We've actually had him on our podcast, and obviously his Carlos Sainz is definitely probably his best impression.
Everyone told me this, and when I saw the impressions,
My name is Carlos Sainz. I'm a driver with Ferrari.
I saw it, and I was like, I'm not the best. I think there's 2 or 3 other guys that he's doing it incredibly perfect, but everyone was telling me, no, but he's the best. And I was like, yeah, but these other 2 or 3 guys is incredible also. He does honestly an incredible job. I laugh a lot. At the beginning, I had mixed feelings because everyone said I was the best and I didn't feel like I was the best. I thought that maybe George
is very good.
George was very good.
Christian Horner's very good as well.
Christian was very good.
Yeah.
Even Max with the Red Bull can was very good. Daniel's laugh, he replicates the laugh, incredible. But yeah, the more I see it, the more I see myself.
Yeah.
The more I keep seeing it,
he's getting better.
The more I see it, yeah, he's like me.
No, it's great. We loved having Conor on the pod. Next question: driving in the wet is a masterful skill. How do you go about judging just how fast you can go through a certain part of the circuit if the conditions are constantly changing? Like, what's the process? Is it just hope, or how do you manage it?
You know, when it's hope, when we are on slicks. When we are on slicks on a wet track, is hope.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hope, a lot of risk. That's when you're also quite nervous because you know a small mistake and out of line there's zero grip and the car is gonna spin and you're gonna probably have a pretty big crash. Especially when it's a dry line, you have this much space to put a slick tire. If you put it out of this much space at 300 kph, you're off into a spin and a crash. And that's where it's hope because you are judging the speed that you're gonna get into that dry line. And in the wet, normally the wet gives you 2 or 3 laps where also the wet tire comes into temperature and you're loading the car, feeling the grip, and then you go use the battery for 1 lap. Once you've learned the track, you go for it. So yeah, the wet is a bit more little by little. The slick on the wet or on a damp track is the proper risk, proper highest adrenaline I think that you can have in an F1 car together with a street track.
Is there a measurement that you get told, like, right, Carlos, it's raining X amount intensity, or is it literally just feel?
I've been 9 years in F1 and I've been trying to find a million different ways to look at the radar, to tell my engineers to tell me the amount of rain, levels. And in the end, there's no better sensor than, sorry for your ass and your hands in the car, because that's where you're feeling the grip.
Yeah.
And yes, they can tell you if it's raining in the other side of the circuit, but until you don't go to that corner and feel how much lack of grip there is because it's not the same being on a worn hard tire than being on a new soft. The grip level in the wet is going to be completely different. Until you don't know and experiment with the tire that you have at the time, the grip there is there, you cannot tell exactly what's the right thing strategy-wise, no? And yes, not only when it starts raining, but when it starts drying. is the same, which is more the qualifying that I was talking.
Because then you gamble on the dries and
Exactly. Exactly. 455 Nation has asked if you could go golfing with any 3 current or former F1 drivers, who would you pick? So Lando is my golf buddy, let's call him like that, the one that I always normally golf with. And then I heard Lance, I've played with Lance once and he's pretty good, and Checo is getting there. So current, I would choose those ones. And then I think Alan Prost got to handicap 2, he told me once, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
And there were others. Fernando, he used to play also a bit more. No, he doesn't play anymore. But yeah, I'm sure there's others of the 90s that I would like to have a good round and catch up and see what they have to say. Haven't told you the rule that I would change.
Yes, let's finish on that.
I still don't know.
Come on, you can do this.
Just came to my head. Why did I put myself into trouble again? I have an idea.
Okay.
I would still do the sprint weekends a reverse championship order grid for the sprint.
Here we go.
I do think it would be good because just imagine, let's say, Max starting last, the Ferrari starting P16, I don't know where we would, 14th, 13th. The lower field car starting, the whole field would be like closing on each other. And if you put points up until P10, I would be starting P14 saying, I can get to top 10 or top 5. Max starting from P20 would believe he can get to the top 10 with the Red Bull. Everyone who's starting P8, they might be the only points they get in the whole year, no? And if you're in not this year because everyone's getting points, no? But in other years, you would be holding on to that P1, P2, P3 for your life. So the racing that you would get that day would be incredible. And it doesn't affect the rest of the weekend. You still have the main race that everyone cares about, and it's everyone wants to win that race, but you have that race on Saturday to talk about something else.
Yeah, I mean, we're sold, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you actually think that could happen, though? As much as we would love for that to happen, do you think it's possible?
There's a few drivers that have, we've asked for it. Like we've said, if you really want the sprint weekend to make it interesting and to make the sprint race something different, why don't we try this?
Yeah, because I mean, from a fan perspective, we found that almost the sprint weekend originally that was kind of part of the weekend was better than this weekend now, where you've just got it on a Saturday. It's its own little thing. There's not many points up for grabs, and then you've got the Friday and the Sunday.
And essentially just the whole race is just the first half, or not even first half, the first third of a race before pit stop. So there's not really that much. What I find sometimes with this sprint race is that is the first third of the race, no? Yeah, so you're getting what's going to happen on Sunday.
It's a spoiler.
It's a spoiler of the main race because it's exactly the sting length and probably even the tire that we're going to start on Sunday. So you're going to get a race simulation of what is actually the race on Sunday that everyone has always let's see what happens. Is the tires going to degrade? Are the Ferraris going to be quick? Are the Mercedes going to be fast? Is the Red Bull going to dominate? Saturday at the moment, unfortunately, gives you that insight into what Sunday's going to look like. While if it's a reverse grid, there's so much going on or so much overtaking that no one settles into a pace. Everyone's going to be overtaking after overtaking and in really having some good fun. And you would, right? Because that's another thing that I'm fascinated to speak to an F1 driver about it, because there's been this perception of, why would a driver, when they're 13th and 12th, they wouldn't risk it? But surely your driver instinct, even though you know there's no points on the table, if you're quicker, you want to go for the moves, right? And it's exciting regardless. For sure, especially because you see those points not too far away from you. If you are P20 because you have the fastest car, but P10 is not too far away, no? And I think we're animals inside the car. We still want to overtake the guy in front of you, even if it's for P12. People who say we don't care about 13 to 12 is a lie, because you're one step closer to one championship point. That points here or there, every point counts. Or at least that's my approach.
Love it. Carlos, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you,
it's been
guys.
great. It's been a hot room, but thank you for sticking with us and appreciate
Had a lot
it,
of
my
fun,
friend.
so
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. And that's it. See you soon.
See ya.